Alright, today's the day. I'm going to work on the front brakes and rotor, just replacing them. Got a little wobble in the rotors that I have now, and I just looked on YouTube at Chris Fix's page. He's got a lot of neat stuff. If you want to check him out, I'll put a link to his channel in the description below. But yeah, I just found the Powerstop, and I went ahead and went with the Extreme. This is the truck and tow package. I don't really tow much or anything, but I do sometimes go up into the hills. I just wanted a little beefier setup. They're drilled and slotted, and the whole package was just like 172 bucks, which wasn't bad. Picked up a torque wrench to make sure I get things set back to factory specs. Of course, had to grab some jack stands just for safety, but we'll see how this goes today. I'll video some of it. So I blocked each tire just with some weights and tested it by trying to back over it a little bit, and it definitely stops the truck for sure. I set the parking brake, and now I'm going to get it up on jack stands. I know it's kind of ghetto, but I'm just using the jack that comes with the truck. I didn't want to buy a whole floor jack. Put it in the position that the owner's manual said, and now I'm breaking loose the bolts. Before you lift it, you just want to break these loose. Kind of funny, the other side, these were pretty loose to get off. That was a little bit harder than any of the ones over there. I don't know if they were torqued correctly, but I've got the torque wrench, and I found that it takes 80 pounds. This isn't taking much force at all. That one was a little bit tough, that one wasn't bad. Looks pretty good. Alright, we got it on one. The truck's on jack stands. I have the jack in the front with just a little bit of pressure on another spot just for safety, and the lug nuts are off. Alright, let's take a look. Let's turn this a little bit towards us. Dang. Oh, that's kind of hard. I have the key in the ignition, just barely click forward so we can move the wheels back and forth. I have tons of brake life left, but the rotors are warped for sure, because when I'm going down a big hill, I can just feel it shaking the steering wheel, so we'll replace everything. This kit comes with everything you need, replacement parts, and I'm going to take a look at these brakes, see how thick they are compared to the ones I've used. We're going to get a little bit more thickness in there, a little more stopping power. Got everything out of there, the pistons are pushed back. Before we take this brake caliper off, I noticed you have to remove this top line. It just bolts right on here with a 10mm, and remove that. I have 4-wheel drive, so I'm sure it goes to that. And then the second one here is a 12mm, and then that will make it so that when we remove the caliper, we can store it without pinching or damaging or bending the brake line. The next step is this back bolt here first, and then this one here. You don't want to mess with the ones in the front, and this back bolt's a 17mm, so is the lower one. We'll see how hard it is to get that one off. Wow, this is full learning curve. So I now have a chair. I was sitting on this little trifold stool. I found that it was a lot easier just to bring the caliper out and just lay it down right here about the height of the rotor, because trying to hook it way up there, I just didn't like how much of a twist or bind it was putting on this. So this is a good spot for this for now, and we'll see how hard it is to get the rotor off. I'm probably gonna grab a hammer to bust it loose. Let's see. There, finally, good grief. Boom. Before I put this rotor on, I'm gonna just clean the surfaces with brake cleaner wherever the brake pads are gonna touch. Give this a wipe down. Just used a couple lug nuts to hold this in place steady. while I get the caliper back on centered and put the brake pads in. I just set up time lapse over there, and I'm just going to look inside the caliper a little bit. Just do a tiny bit of cleaning up a couple of these edges. Alright, I got the surfaces where the brake pads touch very clean, and I'm going to put the brake lubricant there, the high heat, so it doesn't make any noises while I'm braking. Get this back together. I got all that tightened up nice, and now I'm putting the lubricant on the back side of the brake pad. I'm just kind of using the old one as a template to see where the calipers press, and it's probably all it needs. Also, the metal edges on the side here, both sides. Got my pads in and the pins, and I put a little bit of the brake grease on there as well. It says it's a pretty high heat, so I just wanted to lube that up. It's in. I'm going to get all the hardware back in and be done with this side. Alright, this side is done. Don't forget to put that little clip back through there and bolt up these two bolts that hold the two lines. Now it's all ready for the wheel. All done. It's looking good. Got the new rotor in. Everything's all done. It really wasn't that scary. First time to ever do anything like that. Just step by step. I just watched Chris Fix do it, and then now I tried it and saved myself lots of money. So it was good. I'm going to do the other side. Everything laid out, and we'll get started. Okay, just got the wheel off. I'm gonna show you this side a little bit quicker now that I know what I'm doing. I turned the wheel to have easier access to all the stuff, and this pin here is the first thing. Just pull that out. That's gonna be trash because we have the new pins from Powerstop. Rotate that pin around, pull that out. That's garbage. This one down here, it just helps the pads to open back up when you're not braking. Grab this side, you can twist that right out of the hole and just bring it towards you. That's it. This side over here does the same thing. Grab it, pull it out of the hole. My pins weren't tight. I've seen on videos where people have to use a punch. I actually bought a punch thinking it was going to be tough. It's not bad. These guys just come right out real easy. Throw those on the ground. We're going to need those again. I clean them up. I'll show you how I did that this next time. And then that thing just comes right out of there. That's going to be garbage. We've got new ones. Now the pads are pretty stuck. I mean, it's not too bad, but the piston's right back in here. Both sides here and here. They're compressed. We need to open that up. So this is where I used a screwdriver and actually a flat crowbar. I didn't even have to push very hard. It just opened back up. And up here in the reservoir, I thought this was a screw top. It's not a screw top. It just kind of peels open, and I just left it on there loose so no debris gets in there, and that makes it easier to push some of that brake fluid back up in there. First thing I did was just kind of go into this crack and see if I could get a little tiny bit of movement. A tiny bit back and forth, because I'm not going to use these pads again. The rotor that I'm going to discard, and also the brake pads. That's why I'm prying on them, not really caring, because I'm putting all new stuff in. You don't really want to put any pressure on the actual cylinders themselves on either side, just the stuff in the middle. I'm going to get that opened up a little bit more. After you pull the brake pads out, the next step is to go ahead with these two bolts right here, this one and this one. You want to start with the little one and then come to the bigger one. Totally break those loose and set them aside. That's going to allow you to move your caliper out of the way, and then this line back here can separate from it, or it's all held together and you won't have enough slack to lay your caliper aside. After loosening that guy and this guy, the next step is these bolts back here. You want to do this one. That one's the one that holds the caliper, and then down low, that one right there. Loosen those two, and it's gonna be pretty heavy and fall free, so you need to support it. I'm gonna put the chair there again and just lay it on the towel so I can clean it all out. These surfaces up top where the brake pads rub, and then down here too, you want to clean that completely. I cleaned each of these as well and just lubed all those areas so it doesn't squeak. So I'm gonna do that now. This is where you want to get your towel or any stool or bench. Get this guy ready. I got the bottom one loose already, and then the top one's nearly out. Okay, it's free. And then just pull it straight off. Forgot to separate this upper clip, so I'm trying to do it with one hand. There, got it. And then you can just lay that down. I'll show you what I forgot to do. This little clip right here, you pinch it and it goes into this hole right over here, and it was still connected. I was able to get it out, so I'm gonna clean all that up, get this rotor off. It's gonna probably have to be hammered on again. We'll see. Should break free. So it can be pretty stuck on there. Probably the reason is there's rust on the inside of here. Just all this area where it was set, getting wet, it just kind of rusted. Nothing's holding it on, and the other one will just go on a lot smoother, a lot easier. But I go ahead and clean all these surfaces, even this, with the brake cleaner, wipe it off real good, so we can hopefully stop that from happening. Then start cleaning this guy. I got all these surfaces real clean where the brake pads touch, and this is what you're going to lubricate up here at the top. Just this area down here, a little bit right here, and then I like to put a little ring around each one of these guys, and then down here on the bottom same thing. There we go, that's good. Time to put the rotor on and caliper back on. I want to be careful not to get any of that lube anywhere on the braking surface. Hand tighten those on just to hold the rotor still while you get the caliper back in the right spot. Okay, got the top one started. Bottom one lined up and started. Okay. Each one of those are hand tight. Everything looks good. I'll just tighten them back up, and the pads are going to slip in there nice and easy. Now I'm starting here with this one, and then this guy goes on there, and the little clip goes through the back of here. You got the pads in. Now it's time to put in the hardware, the pins. Lube the pins, and then I slid them back through. This guy is just a clip that slides in real easy. The pins are pretty loose at the end, both sides. The bottom one's not as bad because you have this spring that's not touching the rotor, and it's flipped up pressing against the brake pads, and then each side it bends into that. Just you want to make sure you don't bend the spring, you just want to fit it in there, and then you want to press that flush against there on each side, and then press these back all the way open. That's it, ready to put the wheel on. Okay, both sides are on. I'm just going to give them a little free spin and listen, making sure everything's good. I have not pumped the brakes yet to bring the pads back to the rotor. Everything sounds good. I'll do that now. I pumped the brakes. It took probably about 5 or 6 full slow pumps all the way down and back out, and then the pressure built back up. You can see, it's kind of dark, you can see right here that I'm gonna have to add just a little bit of .3 brake fluid, but for now I have to go and break in those pads. I have to do 5 stops, a particular mile per hour down. I'm going to read the directions one more time before I do it, and then I'll pretty much be set. It says not to tow the first 100 miles or do anything too extreme, so I'll just kind of take it easy, but I'm excited to see how these brakes work now. Alright, back on the ground. Job's done. Nice. Alright, we went out and did the procedure. 40 miles an hour down to 10 aggressively in succession 5 times, and then pretty much immediately do a 35 down to 5 in succession, but not quite as aggressive, and then drive around for 5 minutes without coming to a complete stop. It's kind of fun. It's sketchy because we had to time it. We found a country road, but we still had to time it so people weren't thinking we were crazy. But that's it. Brake job's done. We'll see how these things last, and I'll probably put a link on Chris Fix's page of what I did, and it's pretty fun to do. Pretty easy for a first time brake job. See ya.